Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining. We're just gonna wait a few more minutes to wait for more people to join us. Yeah, this is a presentation entitled Blacks in Golf, an event presented by All Access Golf, which consists of Kelly Pierre, the founder and CEO, myself, and Winston Gordon. And just a brief background of who we are. All Access Golf was created in order to increase the accessibility, relatability, and visibility for our minorities in the sport of golf. And we do this by hosting multiple events such as golf clinics, outings, and informative events such as the one we're about to do tonight. And tonight we're honored to speak on the history and cultural significance of the Shady Golf and Country Club, which was the first African-American owned and operated country club in the United States. And it's located in Scotch Plains, New Jersey. And also this year also happens to be the centennial anniversary of the golf club, which came to be in 1921. So this is a very special year. And to help us facilitate the discussion, we have an esteemed panel of guests that all have ties and affiliations with the golf club. We have Sylvia Hicks, chair of the Preserve Shady Rest Golf Committee. We have Thurman Simmons, chairman of the John Shippen Memorial Golf Foundation. We have Sheena Pajeram, president of the Shady Rest Golf Club, and Gary Jones, former Caddie at Shady Rest. And I'm not sure how many people we have right now. But I guess without further ado, we're going to show a short video of John Shippen, who was the first American to participate in the U.S. Golf Championship. He's also the first Black man. So without further ado, here's the video.
This is a born here at Shinnecock Hills, of character, of virtue, of courage, in the increasing.
I didn't believe it until I did research and started finding out he was the first American golfer. He just happened to be African American.
Named for his reverend father, John Matthew Shippen Jr. found work as a young caddy at this course, destined for lore, on the rolling lands of rural Long Island.
He worked the course, he cut the greens. Matter of fact, he built the course. He helped build Shinnecock. He and the Shinnecock Indians, they built Shinnecock Golf Course.
John's talent and passion for the game was mentored and enhanced by Shinnecock Hills pro Willie Dunn, a Scotsman who recognized Shippen's promise.
He got so good, the members of Shinnecock paid for his entry fee to play in the second official U.S. Open.
At just 16 years of age, John Shippen faced first the racial prejudice of the era before the challenge of the championship. From English and Scottish golf professionals rose objections to Shippen's participation. If he played, they would not. A valiant Theodore Havemeyer, the first president of the fledgling USGA, took the moral high ground and backed Shippen. Realizing the tournament would proceed without them, the protesters relented. The second U.S. Open in history began, and John Shippen, with his first stroke, stood as the first American-born professional golfer to participate, and the first man of color.
John Shippen, he was winning. He was winning the tournament, and he got stuck on the back nine. He finished fifth. He won $10.
John finished 7 strokes behind champion James Fowlis. He would play in 5 more U.S. Opens and finally earned his PGA membership in 2009, 41 years after his death.
He's threefold. He's the youngest, first American, first African American. So nobody can take that away from him.
He passed 50 years ago this spring, but his place in history, offered on that one day, July 18th, 1896, lives forever.
Shady Rest is a place that I grew up on. I moved here to Scotch Plains when I was 5 years old from Virginia. And my aunt, she owned the grocery store right across from the First Tee. And I had another aunt that owned the grocery store on the other side of the street across from the Ninth Fairway. So I would have to cross the golf course to go from one house to the other.
Well, I was born not too far from here, on Madison Avenue in Westfield. And I came here as a young lad. I used to caddy here. In fact, when I was in late grade school and high school. And then before my college days, I came here. And originally it was not a black course, it was a private course.
You could bring your families out here, and the kids had place to play and run around, and your wife, whatnot, they sit out there on the porch with friends and play cards while we was playing golf. And then after golf, they had a bar, they had a restaurant, and if you want to stay over at night, you could dance, you know. And it was a place. It was no other place around here like this. This is the only one and only. The one and only, Shady Rest. And I don't think there'll ever be another club like Shady Rest.
The story of Shady Rest begins at the Westfield Country Club, which was established in 1900 and featured a 9-hole golf course north of the Westfield train line on Jerusalem Road in Scotch Plains, New Jersey. On either side of the club was an African-American community of small houses, and the residents would routinely cut across the golf course to get to the train line or to socialize. Over a period of years, a right of travel evolved, which later affected the legal rights of the all-white private club. And in 1921, when the Westfield Country Club considered plans to expand the course to 18 holes, this legal condition undoubtedly affected their decision. They chose instead to sell the club and merge with the Cranford Golf Club to form the Echo Lake Country Club in Springfield. The former Westfield Club was mortgaged to the Progressive Realty Company, created by a group of prominent African Americans, and became the Shady Rest Country Club, considered to be the first African American golf and country club in America. There were other black-owned and/or operated golf courses before and during this period, but no other had combined golf with the clubhouse, restaurant, lockers, tennis courts, horseback riding, skeet shooting, croquet, and social activities that were available at Shady Rest and generally associated with country clubs of the era. Shady Rest was run by and for blacks and became an important social and economic institution in the local community and the New York metropolitan area.
What did Shady Rest mean to its community, and what did white country clubs mean to their community? Is a very interesting question. I think that white country clubs tend to be more insular, more isolated, more removed from the community. Basically, they're just for the membership. But I don't get the sense that there was this pride invested in the white country club by people in the local community that I find in a place like Scotch Plains in relation to Shady Rest. This institution seemed to stand as some kind of beacon for what blacks could accomplish. Furthermore, the arenas for black social and recreational outlet were so limited that Shady Rest took on a number of functions that a white country club would not. So in this sense, something that is owned by blacks, operated by blacks, for the benefit of blacks, I think sort of transcends the bounds of the normal country club and stands as a community institution much more than a white country club would.
In addition to the golf, we had tremendous tennis. We had 6 tennis courts, championship tennis courts here. Right back behind me where the 9th green is was 3 courts, stadium courts. They had a stadium surrounding them. And just below us there was 3 others. And we had the top black tennis pros and players in the country that came here to play. Of course, Althea Gibson played here, and she was later. But prior to that, they had pros named Dr. Reginald Weir, Erie Sach, Ora Washington, which was an old timer at that time when I was young, and she was a top tennis player. Matilda Davis, Dr. Matilda Davis and her family. Even Mr. Willis, who owned the course at the time, he was a great tennis buff, and his whole family played. His daughter Phyllis, his son Billy, the other son DeWitt, and his nephew Jeff. They were all top-notch tennis players. So it was great fun here, and I grew up with this, so I know it all.
Almost every Saturday night, some kind of function was being arranged in the club, a dance or something, and most of that was community-oriented. The people from the community would participate in those activities. Some of them were free, some of them were, you know, they charged admission to, but not all. But mostly, most of the time it was dances, you know, open to the public, open to the community, and it was a community-oriented thing. And on certain occasions, black professional musicians used to play here a lot. A lot of the old-time musicians like Cab Calloway and Jimmy Lunsford and Earl Hines, they all played here.
At Shady Rest, when we first made that appearance for that one night thing that we did, and then it became a weekly thing like Saturday and Sunday, they had other bands there, and they just shoved us aside. If they had a big-time band coming in, they just tell us, well, you're not playing this weekend because we got Count Basie coming in, or we got Jimmy Lunsford coming in, or Lionel Hampton, or one of the other big bands. And we said, oh, yeah, well, we were glad not to play because we wanted to see what they sounded like, too. So we didn't mind not playing because they had a big band coming in. So that's how that went. And then a lot of times we'd come out early in the daytime on nights that we weren't playing, that they were going to have a big band there. We'd come out there early, and we knew a lot of the girls out there, and we'd hang out there until it was time for the big band to show up. And then they let us in for nothing because we were like the house band.
There was an experience where Ella Fitzgerald was here with the Chick Webb band when she was singing with Chick Webb, when the bus used to come up off of 22 Highway and come up Jerusalem Road to the club. One time the bus pulled up, and my youngest sister, she lives in Atlantic City now, she was the first one up to the bus when the door opened. And when Ella stepped off the bus, she placed a silver dollar in the palm of her hand. She kept that silver dollar for years. She was one of the first children at the bus. And Ella, when she stepped off the bus, she gave her a silver dollar.
In 1925, the first National Colored Golf Championship was held at Shady Rest. This championship was organized by a group formed earlier that year in Washington, D.C., called the United States Colored Golfers Association. B.C. Gordon, president of Shady Rest, was elected the president of this new organization. 2 years later, the group was renamed the United Golfers Association, an organization that served as the governing body of black golf until desegregation opened up many public courses to blacks in the mid-'60s. In that same year, 1925, a fight for control of Shady Rest erupted over mismanagement of the club's finances between forces representing a New York contingent headed by Henry C. Parker and a local group from New Jersey. The local group managed to vote out the New York slate of club officers. But the New York group was reinstated after the election was challenged in the courts. However, sometime following this controversy, it was rumored that Parker and another New York member, John E. Nail, left Shady Rest along with money collected to pay off the mortgage, leaving the club in substantial debt. It was at this point that William Willis Sr. assumed control of Shady Rest.
He owned the place. After Nails and Parker left, right, with the monies that had gathered, I guess, for the purchase of the place, or to pay the mortgage off, they left, they skipped town with it. And there was a matter of $20,000 that closed the deal. And the old man came up with it, with Dr. Brock out of Westfield.
William Willis Sr. ran Shady Rest for the remainder of its history. In many ways, he represents the struggle of African Americans entering the mainstream of middle-class America. His son, William Jr., describes how his father accumulated money and eventually became involved with Shady Rest.
He's a regimental supply sergeant. He had a business head, right? And all the meats and whatnot, right, came through him. And then he would issue them out to, and the officers and whatnot. So he saw that the officers were well fed. And to show their appreciation, he used to loan money, right? I don't know, 2 for 1 or whatever, but he made money, right? And through the grapevine, you hear stories, right, that he used to like to gamble, and he's very lucky. And gambling, he won a lot of money. And then by loaning money, right, he also made a lot of money. Then I heard that there was a shipment going out, and the old man, the people that owed him the most money were being shipped. And the old man, through the years, by taking care of the officers, held up the shipment until payday. And then they got their money, and the old man could get his.
It was Willis's vision and financial skill that allowed Shady Rest to continue and prosper.
He just kept building, adding. And then people would put obstacles in his way, saying that the place was closed, that they were going out of business. So to counteract that, every week he would have a name band come in out of New York, right? He worked with Joe Glazer and Cab Calloway, Blanche, all name bands. So he had to know somebody, right?
But in 1938, Shady Rest was forced to change ownership and became the property of the township of Scotch Plains.
These roads that you see that are paved, Plainfield Avenue, Jerusalem Road, there were nothing but dirt, and the trolley tracks stood that high up above the ground, right? So in 1930, the township, I guess, said they were going to put these 2 concrete roads through here. And there was nothing but blacks, poor people, and nothing but big woods here at the time. Nothing but woods, right? No business, no nothing. So the club, all the assessment would fall on the club. So the club couldn't carry that assessment, right? We'd only been operating for about 4 or 5 years. So it was suggested to the old man by Sheriff Campbell at the time. So Willis let the township take it over, lease it year by year with a gentleman's handshake agreement, nothing in writing. So this is what he did. And it paid off because the club couldn't exist without these roads, right? So he had no alternative.
Throughout the shifts in control of Shady Rest, one enduring presence was that of John Shippen. Shippen came to the club in 1932 after a distinguished and historic career playing golf as well as green superintendent at some of the most exclusive golf clubs on the East Coast. He was the son of an African-American Presbyterian minister who moved to the Shinnecock Indian Reservation on Long Island in 1888. At about that time, one of the first golf courses in America, the Shinnecock Hills Golf Course, was being constructed near the reservation where the young John Shippen eventually became a caddy. He developed an interest in playing the game, later gave lessons, and served as an assistant to Scotsman Willie Dunn, who functioned as the golf professional at Shinnecock. Although the PGA of America wouldn't be established until 1916, as such, John Shippen was the first American-born golfer to perform the duties of a golf professional. Shippen was good enough to compete in 5 U.S. Open championships through 1913.
He only mentioned certain things at not necessarily U.S. Open, but I mentioned him saying that he played at the Shinnecock Country Club, and he said he taught these people like J.P. Morgan and so forth. And he mentioned J.P. Morgan as an example of where he didn't think much about the game, but people convinced him to try it. It so happened that his first attempt at hitting the ball, he hit it and it went on the green, and he convinced himself that the game wasn't a challenge and he wasn't going to bother with it. But I understand he gave instructions to a lot of prominent people.
Shippen's participation in the 1896 Open, held at Shinnecock Hills, sparked a racial controversy when a group of white players threatened to boycott the tournament if Shippen and Oscar Bunn, a Shinnecock Indian caddy, were allowed to play. However, Theodore Havmeyer, the president of the newly formed United States Golf Association, informed the disgruntled foreigners that Shippen and Bunn would play. And they did. Shippen was tied for the lead after the first 18 holes, but during the second round he encountered one bad hole and eventually finished 5th. There is conflicting evidence surrounding the question of John Shippen's race, whether he was an African American or part Shinnecock Indian. The consensus is that he was an African American of Jamaican ancestry. The fact that Shippen married a Shinnecock Indian woman and the tri-racial nature of the tribe has contributed to the dispute.
He was the first black in the Open, and he passed off as an Indian. But we didn't talk too much about it. But I recall one Sunday, all this family came out here in their Indian regalia, right? Oh, I don't know, about 8 or 9. And I had a good time out here on the porch, spent the whole afternoon. Again, I say I was young and I noticed it, right? Then after the years went by, learning more and more about Ship and reading the articles, because he never spoke of it, right? I put 2 and 2 together.
Although many of the members of Shady Rest were unaware of Shippen's golfing accomplishments before he came to Shady Rest, he was remembered for his influence on them as kids.
Everybody liked Chip. Everybody took an interest in him, and he took an interest in the kids. He never had any kids give him any problem as far as fighting or anything like that, or bad language. Or when they came over here and they started to caddy, they looked up to Ship. Very few of us. In the beginning, we called him Mr. Shippen, but he made it a point to call him Ship himself.
We as kids would follow him around, caddy for him. When he was working on the greens, we would go out and help him carry the flags and put them in the hole. And as a caddy, you get to learn the game because you don't have clubs of your own, but you take the opportunity to take the clubs out of the bag of the person you're caddying for, and out of eyesight, you would start swinging the club.
They had a tournament over here one time, one Sunday, and I really wasn't aware. I don't know what happened. Somehow it got by me that they were having a big tournament that day, and they had a lot of people over here to play, you know, and they needed caddies. But for some reason, I wasn't here, and I had gone to church that Sunday, and it was near the end of the church service. I saw this young fellow that I knew who was a caddy, who was standing outside, you know, outside the door, outside the church, and I could see him. So I got up and went out to see what he wanted. You know, he looked like he was looking for somebody inside the place. And I got to ask him what he wanted. And he was looking for me. He said, "Come on, man." I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "They got a big tournament over there and Ship wants you to caddy." You know, he pulled me out of church to caddy at one of the tournaments. He said, "They need caddies over there. Ship looking for you."
He worked this way. And he lived here just like a father, uncle, or whatever. Buddies, right? He would get up in the morning and sweep the greens, you know, get the worm cast off and do. He'd cut the greens. He knew the upkeep of a golf course. And after that was done, he'd go up and relax, come down in his knickers on, and play golf with the guests or whoever, you know. And he made a little money, you know, betting. Different people would bring white fellows up, right, from Plainfield and different parts, come up to challenge Ship. Dr. Deborah from Plainfield was good for that. He had the contact with these fellows that said they were good, and Ship would eat them up out here. Right? He could do anything with a golf ball.
In the year 1951, we had the club championship here, and I beat John Shippen. I was 4 down and 5 to go, 3 down and 5 to go, and I had 4 straight birdies. I birdied 5, 6, 7, and 8. And I beat John that day. Just one of those days when you're on.
So you beat the U.S. Open competitor.
Sadly, in 1968, John Shippen died at the age of 90, alone in a rest home in Newark, largely ignored. When the U.S. Open was played for the second time at Shinnecock Hills in 1986, John Shippen was mentioned in the opening of the telecast by ABC. Ironically, that's when many of the former members of Shady Rest became aware of his accomplishments. In 1963, the gentleman's agreement between William Willis Sr. and the township of Scotch Plains came to an end. Shady Rest became the Scotch Hills Country Club and was open to the public. Historians view this change with mixed emotions. While the end of Shady Rest is linked to the rise of integration in public facilities in the 1960s, there is ambivalence over the inevitable deterioration of this African-American institution.
What kind of price have black people paid for integration? We tend to think about integration in positive terms. First of all, I don't believe that African Americans have reached a true state of integration in the society, that integration tends to be superficial. And certainly the kind of integration that we have has tended to hurt black institutions. So what happens when municipal golf courses open up to blacks, when private courses open up to blacks, when other kinds of social institutions open their doors to blacks? Oftentimes black institutions will lose membership. New generations will not have the kind of rapport, relationship, endearment to a black institution as would those who came up in a segregated and exclusionary era. So Shady Rest's demise has to be linked to larger issues beyond the municipality, beyond the community, but in terms of the effects of the kinds of integration that we see taking place in American society.
Now it is with great pleasure I present to you Lee Elder, Senior PGA Touring Pro.
All right,
As a tribute to the memory of Shady Rest and John Shippen, a local Scotch Plains community group organized a series of events at Scotch Hills. A minority youth golf clinic featuring senior professional tour golfer Lee Elder, and an annual tournament named in the honor of John Shippen. The proceeds of these events resulted in the awarding of an annual minority golf scholarship and the commissioning of a painting of John Shippen by the late renowned African-American artist Don Miller. The painting is displayed prominently along with other Shippen memorabilia in the clubhouse at Scotch Hills Country Club.
To honor Alan Augustine.
The story of Shady Rest represents a symbol of black achievement during a period when African Americans were suffering even more than the Depression-era white Americans. The club offered the evolving black middle class a social and economic institution with access to activities not associated with the minority community. Shady Rest provided a forum for some of the most prominent African Americans of the period, from all spheres of influence: Althea Gibson, Ella Fitzgerald, W.E.B. Du Bois. It was also the home of John Shippen, the first American-born golf professional. It boasted a membership of working-class and professional men and women and their families, and provided an atmosphere of civility and belonging in what was otherwise a hostile and unfriendly world.
Deny that. Okay, a lot of people probably don't even know John Shippen buried right here in the state of New Jersey. He was in an unmarked grave with number 71 on a slab of concrete. Prior to the John Shippen Foundation finding out, number one, where he was buried, I had to go out there and walk the cemetery to find the grave. When I found the grave, I came back and said, we're gonna put a tombstone on this thing. And everybody said, what? I said, yeah, we're gonna buy a tombstone and put it on John Shippen's grave. And that's what we did. So now you have a tombstone at the site where he's buried to say who he was and what he did. And it's a shame that the golf world, I mean, they've had US Opens in this area 3 times.
Yeah.
I've never seen nobody come over to Shady Rest. Tiger Woods has been around here 3 times. At least twice, I know. He hasn't come over for whatever reason. But, you know, sometimes you have to put people on the spot to make them understand where they came from. And Tiger Woods, as great as he is, you know, there was somebody that would have been just as great as he is if they had the opportunity. But they didn't have the opportunity. That's where we fall short in the American history. We are never given the opportunity that other people are given in this country to succeed and excel in what we're good at. We're good at everything everybody else is good at, but they block us.
Yep. Yep.
They block us constantly. And you know, they just think, oh, okay, well, we can do whatever we want with you guys. And that's what upsets me to the point that, you know, that I speak out about it, is because it's not the truth of American history. So they want to put us on the sideline, second-class citizens. It's always writing something second class for us or second something for us. We've done a lot of firsts, a whole lot, not only in golf. And they've hit it all. And all of our younger generations don't even know about it. And when you talk to them, they act like, oh, well, when did that happen? I can go back 50 years ago, you know, we weren't in a lot of places. If we were, something happened to us bad.
Yeah.
Now that's resurfacing. It's already resurfaced. So where do we go from now? You know, I don't know what we're gonna have to do to solve this situation that this country's in right now, because it's in a bad state in reference to, as far as I'm concerned, you know, not only with golf, but, you know, with a whole lot of other things. Social justices, injustices, and then every time we try to change things, why you so upset? You know, we got a right to be upset because everything was taken from us and then given to other people, or give other people the credit for it. So golf is just one thing. You know, this is just my contribution to the history of golf. And it took me a long time to get to the USGA. It took me 2 years to get to David Fay, who listened to me and said, well, I said, I don't play golf. I said, no. He said, you don't? I said, no, I don't play golf. I like the history of golf. I like history, period. The older, the better. So that's why I got involved in this. And then, you know, things started happening through the USGA. And the company I worked for, Merck, you know, they helped me out, pharmaceutical company. And we're at this point now, and hopefully it'll get better. But we need young people like you guys to pick it up, because me and Sylvia, we're getting up in age. You know, we've done the groundwork. The foundation is there and it's solid. There's no shakiness to this history. This history is solid. You can go to the bank with this history. They can't deny Shippen and Shady Rest. They can't not deny it. No more. So you guys got a strong foundation to build on. You know, real strong. It's just that getting the key people in position. You know, I'm just an average person. You know, I don't meet these so-called people that can make things happen. You know, that's what we need now. We need somebody to make things happen. And you guys got the opportunity, and you got the history behind you. So you didn't have to go dig it up. You didn't have to do anything, but it's there for you to do as you see fit. And hopefully you'll go down the right road with this history. And it won't get lost again. Because if you ever take your foot off the pedal, they're gonna lose it. They're gonna lose it. We have to institutionalize it. We have to institutionalize it where it's still here, just like Chase Manhattan Bank. You know, we have to be institutionalized. And what Gary's doing when he's up there at the parties, because I told Gary, I said, I'm getting older, Gary. I can't keep doing this. And you know, I wanted him to take it over. And you know, there was some discrepancy. The town didn't want to do it in the beginning, but they found out that Gary's a good caretaker. And Gary knows the history about Shady Rest, and he tells people about it. He tells me that Thurman, you know, people want to go in the museum. I said, well, you got the key, you know what to do. You know how to let them in. And if they, as long as they don't tear stuff up, then you just make sure you lock it back. That's all. So that's what I got to say. You know, I don't know if we got any more questions. I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Well, for me, I feel like people don't know about Shady Rest is because we don't dominate this sport. It's not enough of us on the golf course. And even so, all praises go to Tiger Woods, because even when I was coming up, that's who I looked at. That's why I wanted to play golf. But then he doesn't identify as fully being African-American too. So then we took another step back. But for myself and all the other board members of the Shady Rest Golf Club, it's about networking. I feel like as a culture, we already lack resources, right? They always say $1 million deals get made in a golf course, right? So to us, we're looking to network with people. We're looking for resources for people. Prior to us logging on, Miss Sylvia already said she found some more documents by resourcing with other people. Yep. It's all about who you talk to. So it's like going to class when you speak to Mr. Simmons and Miss Hicks and Gary, right? I mean, as we talked before this, I've been writing notes. I have thousands of questions to ask Mr. Simmons just so that I can continue preaching that same message when the season comes. So I think for me personally, I just feel like we just don't dominate this sport for people to want to know.
I agree with that.
I've been reading some of the messages in the chat room, and I find it interesting because, yes, the Shady Rest was sitting on a dirt road. You had a golf course that was owned and operated by whites in the middle of a Black neighborhood, surrounded by a Black neighborhood. The town allowed them the right of way to cross over the golf course to get from one road to the next. So they didn't have to go all the way down and around to catch a trolley. When that golf course wanted to increase to an 18-hole course, they couldn't. One thing was they had to take the right of way away. And if they would have done that, then they would have infringed on the Black residents that lived around that golf course. So rather than do a long legal battle, we've always made the assumption that they let it go. And luckily, the Progressive Realty Company, which was a bunch of prominent Black businessmen, purchased the golf course, the 9-hole course, as it is right now. It was a 33-acre course, I believe, 33-acre farmland, before it even became a golf course. But the beauty of it is that this was a 2-room house that started in the Revolutionary War, that went to 3 rooms, then it went to 4 rooms. Then by the time the Westfield Country Club purchased it, they added on, and then the Shady Rest added on even further. And they made a way out of no way. I always liked that title because this was used by the exhibit that's down at the National Museum of American History. They have a whole exhibit on a way out of no way. And just like Thurman said, they forged ahead. They didn't want to be kept down. They made a way. They went through a lot of sacrifices to get that Shady Rest Golf Club. They forged ahead to create a safe place, because you have to remember, you were in the midst of Jim Crow. And I don't care what the laws said about equality at that time, we all know it wasn't equal. And they kept changing the rules. So you had golfers and tennis players that were not allowed on these white courses. They weren't allowed at these white clubs. So they made a way out of no way. And this is how a lot of our social organizations, fraternities, and churches came to be. The Masons, the Elks, the AME Church, and sports venues like the Shady Rest. The Shady Rest hosted 2 organizations for tournament play because they had no other place to play. One was the American Tennis Association. The second one was the New Jersey Tennis Association, and they were Black groups of tennis players, because the Shady Rest had 6 clay courts with bleachers. So that became a tournament circuit venue. Golf was another tournament circuit venue. So you had the, help me, Thurman, United States Colored Golfing Association. And we had to, I should say, they had to adjust to supplying these venues to their brothers and sisters so they could play and feel safe, not worry about racism, and also to network and socialize. Because when they weren't playing golf and they weren't playing tennis, they were doing skeet shooting, they were doing horseback riding. They had, and like it was said in that one piece of the film, A Place for Us, they had their own restaurant, they had their own speakeasy. And they supplied some of the best jazz in the state of New Jersey, actually in the tri-state area. So you have people coming from New England and as far south as the Carolinas just to come hear jazz players. Duke Ellington, Sarah Vaughan, Ella Fitzgerald. And so this was a time where they had the way to bring people together. And even though, and I call them a bunch of snooty Black folks at that time, you were scrutinized. You were. You had to apply for golf privileges, for tennis privileges, for to use the club. It was a Black-only club. We have members within our Preserve Shady Rest Committee who will tell you that their parents were white, that had to stand on the side of the road, a dirt road, to hear the music, but they weren't allowed inside. So this is all great history. And like Thurman said, we rely on you guys to keep the torch burning. Shady Rest is a great gem for Scotch Plains. It's a great gem for history. And it shows young Black people, it shows young people, period. You can do whatever you want to do, as long as you try. People have benefited from the Shady Rest for a lot of years. And we're fortunate enough that, the Shady Rest was saved by a handshake, because unfortunately, there was a piece of history that not too many people talk about, but there was two factions that fought for the Shady Rest. They had a group out of New York, and they had the local group, the Progressive Realty Company. And the New York group felt that they could run and take care of the Shady Rest better than the local group. And they had a legal battle. Well, the New York group lost. Unfortunately, though, one of their members took all of their money and left. So it left them bankrupt, basically with no money. But the town and the mayor at that time was benevolent enough to allow them to keep the Shady Rest as it was, pay $1 a year for rent with a handshake. You don't see too many people doing that nowadays. Matter of fact, it's unheard of. I don't know anybody that can go rent an apartment or rent a house on a handshake. But they did. And that kept going until the 1960s, when finally the town did take ownership and operation and made it then into a public course, and it was no longer a private entity. But there were benevolent white folks, because this is how a lot of things got started, because of their money and their influence for a lot of organizations, you know. So I'm thankful that their benevolence helped a lot of organizations, including the Shady Rest, to stay afloat.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Shady Rest is, I mean, I'm kind of speechless when I think about it, because it seems like it was a community, and you guys were telling me stories before about how, you know, you grew up kind of, going in and out of Shady Rest. And I kind of want to hear from you, Gary, about some of your experiences, growing up in the club.
Oh, you mean the ice cream machine?
Yeah, the ice cream machine, Yeah, sorry, I think you might be on mute again.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yep, you're good.
Yeah, as we growing up as a little young kid, running around, like I say, it was so much peace up there. And as a little kid, I used to run into the snack bar and stuff. You know, it used to be a lot of black golfers up in there. And they all used to sit around in there and just talk. And I was a little kid, you know, they had a little pop bottle machine in there. They had like snacks up in there. And as a little kid, I used to go around into the Shady Rest, and I don't know if it was his wife or whoever, it was a lady living upstairs, and I always used to go, she always asked me to run to the store for her. And I used to go to the store for her, see, because a lot, you know, I snuck across. I wasn't supposed to be allowed to go across that golf course, but I did anyway. It was just like, I just wanted to be on the golf course, you know, so, you know, I started gathering golf balls. I used to sell the golf balls for 10 cents and stuff like that. And used to caddy, it helped, ask the white guys, hey, can I carry your bag? You know, it was a couple of us doing it. It was a couple of my friends that we was doing it, you know, but like I say, it was a beautiful place. I mean, the parties, outrageous parties. I mean, you could go in there and just party and have a good time and just leave with no problem. You know, that's just was the joy of it. You know, that was just the joy of being up there, just being in that environment. You know, with it, like I said, black people back, they didn't start no trouble. They stuck together though. You know, they stuck together, and we just took care of each other like a family's supposed to be. You know, and that's what it was up there. It was just it was nothing but, and like I say, a lot of people, you know, like I used to work in New York. And I used to meet people, and they used to tell me, hey, and I don't know what it was. They said, you from Jersey land, ain't you? And I just look around like, how do you know that? You know, it was just strange. You can go places. I mean, people from left, they moved out, but a lot of people know about Jersey land. They know, I mean, the history just goes on and goes on. But, you know, a lot of people don't know about it. Like when I was doing these parties and stuff, some people, you know, they was coming from North and stuff. They were like, I never knew this place existed. Because, you know, didn't nobody talk about it. And a lot of people say, where's Scotch Plains at? And a lot of you don't even know where Scotch Plains was. You know, it was, you know, like now, you got Thurman, you got these people now, they know what the country club is all about now. People are just opening up like this, even with the white people, they so amazed, like, wow, like what Sylvia was saying. I work up there with the senior citizens, and some of them, like she was saying, they were telling me, hey, we couldn't even go in that place. They see us looking in the window and they chase us away and stuff, and they sit on the side of the curb. You know, and I was like, wow, that, you know, I know probably to them it probably like didn't feel good because they had everything. You understand? They had everything. It probably just didn't feel good. Like you got black people finally owning something to stick together where, you know, they can't get into. You know, like they was just curious, what's going on? Why is it like that? Why we can't get in? Y'all should know why you can't get in, you know, because the same way we couldn't get into y'all stuff, you know, just how it was.
Yeah, and I feel like that's that's kind of thing that gets lost when you hear about the history of Shady Rest. You know, you hear about Shady Rest as the institution, you know, as the country club, but you don't hear about, you know, the human stories, you know, the emotional aspect of things. And I feel like that's the most interesting part, you know. And kind of going along with that, Thurman, Sheena, what are your favorite memories or aspects of Shady Rest?
Well, one of mine, before I knew it was a Shady Rest, was just socializing with other kids that play golf, whether they was white or black. We lived in a small town back when I played Carteret, New Jersey, and it was a town full of basketball and football players. So I was like the only little girl playing golf. So when I came to Union County, to Scotch Plains, and seen a whole bunch of other little girl golfers, that made my whole summer. So that's the only memory I have. As an adult, today I got thousands.
Yeah. Thurman?
So what was the question?
What's your favorite memory or you know, aspect of being involved with Shady Rest?
Well, I like the golf mostly because, you know, Sylvia and them was mostly, they wanted me and my wife to head up the Shady Rest committee in the beginning. But we was already had a whole lot of work doing with the John Shippen Foundation. So we took a back seat. You know, we were members of the committee, but we didn't want to head it up. Yep. And so that's when Sylvia took it over. But it's just the history that's been denied for over 125 years, that they said that we couldn't play golf. And to this day, you still don't see a lot of us playing golf because it takes money to get on the tour. You got sponsors and this and that. And nobody wants to sponsor these young kids that can play. Matter of fact, there was one guy, he got an exemption to play in a PGA tournament last week.
Yeah, Willie Mack.
Yeah, Willie Mack. And see, they shouldn't have to go to that with all the people that of color that have money that could sponsor, because we have the talent.
Yeah.
It's just we don't get the opportunity. Like anything else in life. You can have the talent, but if you don't get exposed and you don't get the opportunity, your talent will go to waste.
Yeah.
And that's what happens with a lot of people of African-American descent. Just like the local school here, they should have history lessons. They should take the kids up there. I haven't seen a group of kids from the local school here go to Scotch Plains, Scotch Hills, and Shady Rest and learn the history. That should be a given, you know? That should be part of the curriculum, you know? Because it's history and it's American history. You know, they kind of want to isolate us and put us on an island. All islands don't make it. You know, if you get put on an island and you're not on the right island, you're going to disappear. And once you disappear, now somebody else is going to write your history. And that's what we don't want. We've had too much of that in the past. So, you know, we need to write our own history. We need to institutionalize our own history. It's just like I'm upset with the African American Museum down in DC. They don't have nothing in about Shippen or Shady Rest. Now, that's a disgrace. Because he was the first. And me and my wife, we've been trying to get a stamp, a U.S. postal stamp for John Shippen. We did it for 2 years in a row. The second year, they knocked us down. So we just sent out another letter because the 3 years is up. We want to see what they do.
Yeah.
I mean, we got stamps for flowers or butterflies.
Yeah.
You know, why can't you have a stamp for the first American in golf? They don't give you a reason why they don't do it. They just say denied.
They just say you're not eligible.
No, they don't say that.
They don't?
No, they don't. They give you no reason. They just say at this time, we're not considering the stamp because we have a lot of other people applying for stamps. And I thought that was a significant part of American history, you know, going back over 100 years.
Mm-hmm. But, you know, Thurman is correct about the African American Museum in Washington, D.C.
Yep.
I have written 3 letters. I did go, I've been through there 3 times because it takes that many times to go through it. But I found it interesting, and I don't know if I ever showed it to Thurman, but I took a picture. There was a 5x7 photo along with a very small postcard explanation of John Shippen. That was it.
That was it.
And see, I see there's something coming up on the screen saying, how can we help? Write letters to your congressman, write letters to the postal department, flood them with mail. Because we had thousands of signatures we sent.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, they got stamps of everybody else that's done American history they thought worthy of. So
yeah. Somebody just wrote in the chat, how do we get this recognized nationally? Well, we did raise Preserve Shady Rest. We did raise the funds to hire an historical expert. His name is Mr. Barton Ross. He has now placed an application to the National Parks Registry for the Shady Rest to be made a landmark. Now, we're still short funds. We still owe him quite a bit. But, you know, that comes with a high price tag because he created almost the size of a book, a small book on the history of the Shady Rest, dating back to when it was a 2-room farmhouse up to the present. All the documentation comes, it's all accurate, let's put it like that. It's all accurate. He researched photos, land deeds, wills, everything that led up to 1921 when the Progressive Realty Company purchased the Shady Rest. He's documented the blueprints. He's dated the wood in the attics to show how old the Shady Rest building is, because it did start off as being a 2-room farmhouse. We have worked with Mr. Ross now for, I would say, about 4 or 5 years. And he went through every piece of material that he could find to document about the Shady Rest Clubhouse building. And we're very appreciative. So where we are now is that the official application was submitted to the National Historic Parks Department. So this way we will be listed as a historic landmark. Recently, he did receive an award, and so did Shady Rest, from the New Jersey Historic Preservation about the Shady Rest. So they were just, the Shady Rest was just recognized last week by the New Jersey Historic Preservation organization from the state of New Jersey.
I see someone asked a question about me and David Fay, the Executive Director of the USGA. Did everybody see that question? Well, David, David helped me a lot in reference to getting me introduced to the people up at the music room. So if anybody calls up there and asks about John Shippen, they refer them to me. He was instrumental in getting the USGA to, the USGA has a traveling exhibit of 8 golfers. Mm-hmm. And John Shippen is the 3rd golfer on that traveling exhibit, the greatest golfers in past. So, you know, he was very helpful in helping me do what I had to do to get Shippen where he is today. I went through a lot, you know, to get Shippen where he is today because I didn't have no help. I was the only person, you know. I did the legwork, I did the research, I did the driving around back and forth to Shinnecock in all these various places, found his grandson, Hanno Shippen, found his daughters, Beulah and Mabel Shippen. I have the genealogy of the Shippen family right here in a box. It's a book that was published about John Shippen. And they talk about their father, and they show you the whole family. There was 9 of them. All of them went to college except John.
Yeah.
Oberlin College. John wanted to play golf. And, you know, he had no regrets about what he did, but they were all smart people. His father was a Presbyterian minister, graduated Howard University. And he went out to Shinnecock to minister to Shinnecock Indians to earn some extra money. And then he took his family, and John was the only one to stay. And, you know, so that's why you have to know and say, well, I know that John Shippen wasn't a Shinnecock Indian. He was born in an area called Anacostia, Washington, D.C., 1874. He came to Shinnecock when he was a 9-year-old boy. He learned the game of golf. He learned it so good that the members of Shinnecock paid his entry fee to play. And, you know, that's the history. And I'm glad we're having these conversations. This is about the second one I've had on video about maybe we'll get the word out. Maybe it's going all over the world. You know, people can check it out, and it should be in St. Andrews, you know. They're supposed to be the authority on golf. The USGA took them almost 50 years to accept that we could play golf. Well, no, the PGA, but the USGA and all these guys didn't do anything of publication of John Shippen until I came along and started flooding them with information and telling them he was this and he was that, he's buried here. Well, how do you know? I went there and looked at it. I went there and did the research. I walked the cemetery. I went to the office and found his grave. I have his death certificate. I know who buried him. You know, I know what he died from. Carcinoma, cancer, in Newark, in a nursing home.
Elizabeth.
No. He died in Newark.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. He's buried in
Nesbitt Funeral Home buried him. Nesbitt Funeral Home and Elizabeth buried him.
Can you? And I know that you have a pretty cool artifact from John Shippen, his putter from his U.S. Open victories. Do you have that on hand, or can you speak about it?
No, it wasn't from the U.S. It was a putter he made.
Got you. Yep.
You want to see it?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. He made this putter, and this program called the History Detectives. They came to my house to video the putter and talk to me. It took them 2 days to interview me in my living room about the putter. The putter's over 100 years old. John Shippen's name is in the face of it. It's called a smooth-faced gooseneck wooden shaft putter.
Wow.
And that should be in a secret museum. Well, not secret, but it should be in a museum. That you know, it shouldn't be here. I mean, it's here, but I'm willing to give it to a museum who's going to take care of it.
Yeah. Do you have any plans of doing that? Like, you know, like the African American Museum, or, you know, any other museum of that kind?
Well, I haven't thought about it, because it's been here for 15 years.
Yeah.
I mean, if they haven't reached out to me, I mean, I'm not hard to find. People find me all over the country and call me, you know, and tell me about, I saw this article about you and I read this article. And the guy who gave me the putter, that's how he found me. He heard this guy from Ohio found that I was doing this thing for Shippen. And he said, all I want you to do is tell the people I gave you the putter. He sent me the putter right here to my house. And I've had it ever since.
Wow. And Sylvia, I heard you guys said you guys doing renovations, and you guys just wrapped that up. Can you speak on some of those renovations that were done and kind of the state of the clubhouse before those renovations?
Let's put it to you like this. When Mr. Martin Ross surveyed the original the building before it was renovated, I don't want to give a number, but let's say there was an exorbitant amount of things wrong with the building. We were at the time, we were trying to just get the building, the roof repaired. That was our original goal, was to have the roof repaired, to stop the leaks. It became apparent that it wasn't safe for the seniors to be there because they would use it as a senior citizen center. And then also it was being rented for people to have social gatherings and such. But Mr. Ross, like I said, went through that building with a fine-tooth comb. So in the beginning, it started off with just the roof being repaired, new heating, air conditioning, few electrical, getting rid of critters and such that built nests in different places. And then the project expanded. The next administration after Kevin Glover, they embraced the fact that this was something that needed to be completed. The building was gutted. The old aluminum siding was taken off. And with that, we found, Gary, how many windows? I think 6.
6 windows, yes.
6 windows. We also found, which I found was amazing, that they built, when they were adding on rooms, they found the original farmhouse wall from the 2-room farmhouse, which you can now still see. The windows were there intact. And so unfortunately the windows they could not save, but the exterior wall is now inside the Shady Rest clubhouse, and you can see it, the original shapes. They took part of the 3rd floor and brought it down to the 1st level so you can see what the 3rd floor looks like. The original ballroom floor is still intact. It does need desperate repair, and we're trying to, we're all debating on how to go about to preserve that floor. A lot of the original glass panes are still there because during the Revolutionary War, glass was blown. So your glass panes, they have like a little waviness to them. They're not smooth like you're accustomed to glass the way it is now. So the original glass panes are still there. The original fireplace is still there. Eventually, we would be honored to receive grants, money from anybody to preserve the 2nd floor, because that's where Mr. Shippen lived. The bathroom is still up there. In the basement, the original speakeasy is still in the basement. But I have to say, they did an excellent job putting that building back the way it is now. It's a safe place. It's a very nice place. The kitchen has been redone completely. It's a completely commercial kitchen. The veranda was put back. It's one of the things that was on Kevin's bucket list, was to put back the veranda, because the entire veranda and the porch was taken off years ago, years and years ago. There was no porch. So that's been restored. It's come a long way. It has. It really, really has. We're proud of it. And we're still working on it. There are a lot of things that can be still done to keep its historical significance. And we just need the funds to do it.
Yeah. And I guess speaking about the future of the club, I guess I can direct this question to Sheena. What are some future events that you have planned, and how can people be of assistance or join?
Anyone can go to our social media page on Instagram at Shady Rest Golf Club, or you can visit the website www.shadyrestgolfclub.com. But the future for the Shady Rest Golf Club for this season specifically is it's all about fellowshipping and who we are trying to become. We have spoken about teaching children. We have definitely got to speak to Mr. Simmons on that one to help us move forward. Next season, we hoping to get some kids out, trying to impact the youth. But some of our members want to sponsor kids now. So that's where All Access will come into place and us assisting them and resourcing out. But for the most part, we're trying to break this cycle, right? Like we spoke about earlier, how we don't dominate this sport. So by cycle breaking, instead of me telling my son to keep picking up a basketball, he can also pick up a golf club. It's right now golf is fun. You see, it's the most social distance sport without it being really social distance, right? Sure. So you see players now like Stephen Curry, Charles Barkley, they all out there having fun because it's off season. So golf looks fun. And
most professional sports players, that's what they do when they retire.
Yep.
Even boxers now, De La Hoya plays golf.
Crazy, it's crazy.
Wow.
So, it's a game you can play forever.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Lifetime sport.
But even the numbers went up for, I was speaking to some people at the golf club in Scotch Hills, how it was hard to book a tee time because what are we doing in COVID? Yep. I mean, even when we had our outings as a golf club, it was people that came with no golf clubs. They just wanted to play. So, and that's what we're about. A lot of our members, you don't necessarily have to play golf because we offer, as a member, we offer free lessons. For myself, and we also have an elder in our golf club who is actually a professional golfer. Well, used to be a professional golfer. So you don't necessarily have to know how to play golf. We're here to teach you. We just want more people of our kind on the course. That's it. So the next 100 years, I seen it was a question up on our chat. The next 100 years, it's just impacting and keep on impacting our youth.
Yeah, because there's a whole side of golf, business. I mean, a caddy, a caddy makes 10% of the winner's purse. So these guys make $1 million. The caddy gonna get 10% of that. You travel all over the world. You can build golf courses. You can build golf clubs. I mean, you can manage a golf course. It's not just playing the game, even though, a lot of people put emphasis on that, but the business of golf is humongous. It's a sport that's played on every continent on earth. Yep. Yep. They're playing down in Puerto Rico now. They're playing in Mexico now, right today. So, it's a sport that transcends all cultures and all continents. They playing golf in Dubai.
Yeah.
They're playing golf everywhere. They're not playing basketball in Dubai.
Yeah,
they're playing golf there. They play golf in Alaska in the winter.
Yeah.
So
that'd be a tough round of golf up there, though.
Yeah, I don't know how they do it, but they play a little bit of golf up there.
Yeah.
But
I think
it's a sport that transcends sports.
Yeah.
And we have the ability to get on the other end of that too. You don't have to play the game to, like Gary said, Gary could have been a caddy if he had the wherewithal where he could do that back then. You don't see too many of us caddying now. Why? These guys making money now. So, there's a whole new game when you start making a couple of $100,000 for 4 days. And then, you can travel around the world. I mean, you basically self-employed. I mean, the guy pays you, but you have to get to the tournament if you're the caddy.
I'm glad you brought that up, Mr. Simmons, because to some young kids, I had this conversation with someone over the summer, and I asked him, I said, well, you want to play golf, you need to know the rules, and the best place to learn the rules, not through me, not through the internet, is caddying. And he simply said he didn't want to be the help.
The help.
So, you know, that's what this youth, you see how you laugh at it, but that's what this youth thinks.
Mm-hmm.
That caddying is like side job. They want to be the golfer. I understand that, but like Mr. Simmons said, it's a whole business to caddying.
Yeah.
So that's
an art. That's a whole profession by itself.
Yeah, it's a whole profession.
Yeah.
And the caddy has to help the golfer.
Yes.
You can't just be a caddy. You got to know, well, he's going to ask you a question. Well, what do you think I should do? You got to know the game. You got to know the course that he's playing too.
Yeah.
You got to know what the greens do. You got to know what the wind is doing. You got to tell him, because he's not going to have you around caddying too much longer. You know.
So when you think that shift happened? Because I know that, you know, back in the early days, you know, back when even before, like Jack Nicklaus was playing and all those guys at Augusta, you had to have a local caddy who was black, and you know that like you couldn't have your own personal caddy. And now in the PGA, you see all these guys making millions and hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, when do you think that shift happened?
When did it happen?
Yeah.
I'd say it was in the last 50 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, that's when the shift, you know, kind of pushed us to the side. Same with the jockeys. We used to be the jockeys. We rode the horses. Now, we're not jockeys anymore. But that takes, I think, a more type of person to be a jockey. With a caddy, you don't have to weigh a certain weight, you know. But with a caddy, you can go and learn the game of golf just by caddying, and then you can either make a choice. I want to try to be a pro, or I want to just be a caddy. They got caddy scholarships to send you to school for free.
Yep.
Free, 4-year full scholarship. And see, that's what we need to be telling these young kids. It's hard to get a basketball scholarship, but you got thousands and thousands of players trying to play basketball. And how many of us do you see playing golf at the college level?
Not many.
Very few.
Yep.
Very few. And the degrees are out there to obtain.
Yes.
For free.
Most of the African-American colleges are getting Europeans on their golf team. That's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, something is missing there when you see that, because see, most young African Americans think golf is expensive. Golf is not expensive, number one. To start, you can play a full golf course with a 7-iron, a driver, and a putter, if you know how to play.
That's right.
Am I right?
Yes.
Tournaments, I know.
Yes, you're right.
If you a 7-iron, a driver, and a putter, that's all you need.
That's what I started with.
All the other clubs are just, you know, there for you to use. And, you know, a caddy told me that. Ralph Wise, who was John Shippen's last living caddy. He told me about the 7-iron. You know, as long as you hit the ball straight. So, and Rose Elton used to tell me about the business of golf.
Yep.
And I know people now that are in the sports world because of the business of golf. I know a lady that called me the other day and said she would not be doing what she's doing if it wasn't for golf in sports. Because golf took her all around the world. And now she's a commentator. So, you know, you become a commentator. And golf is played all year round, everywhere. It's not a seasonal sport. You know, it's where the sun shines. You know, and most people follow the sun.
Exactly.
Sure. And I think that's a good segue into our next question. I see a pretty good question in the chat. I guess we can go person by person, but would you mind talking about how you got introduced to the game of golf and what your golf hobby looks like now?
I could go first. So,
because you're the golf pro.
So for me, it's actually funny. It's my dad is was the original golfer. If you ask him now, I beat him all the time. Since I learned how to play golf, he has still yet to beat me. But my dad, like going back to what Mr. Simmons said, business deals get made on a golf course. And he was literally on a business deal. I had the chicken pox. He was like, here's some balls. We played in Red Bank, New Jersey. He said, here's some balls. Just swing this club, Sheena. I'll be right back. I'm going in the back nine. And I did it. And the guy from the pro shop came there. His name was Wilson. I forget his last name. His first name was Wilson. He came over there to me. He said, you got a pretty good swing. So he was helping me. I didn't know he was doing. Mind you, I'm playing with mittens on because I had chicken pox. My dad comes back and the guy says, we have a tournament that's going to be like 2 weeks from that date. Bring her back here. My father's like, she don't know how to play no golf. She play basketball. He said, bring her back here. I was 8 years old. I came back, didn't know nothing about golf. And back then they didn't have clubs for me. So my dad took his old clubs, had them cut down and custom with grips. He did all this in 2 weeks. None of us knew what we was getting ourselves into, and I came in first place.
Wow.
And then, I mean, we've been traveling. We was traveling all the way up until I was about 15. I was fifth in the nation. My dad quit his job so we can, like you said, Mr. Simmons, you follow the sun. That's what we had to do. And I'm here now. I have 3 children, and hopefully all of them will play golf. I don't know if that's a curse or a gift because sometimes you might not want them in golf, but my daughter, who is 7, loves the game. And I just see her in me, and I'm not pushing her, but I did buy her a little putting green today, and she's been putting all morning downstairs. Awesome. So hopefully
you're doing the right thing. Don't push them. Just present it to her. Because it's like a stick. A golf club is like a stick to a child at 2 years old. And children love to swing sticks. Now you give them a little white ball, now that's all they need.
And that's it.
And like you say, golf, I met the vice president of Van Houser Shirt Company on Shady Rest Golf Course. I didn't know him. I got hooked up with him and another guy. We played. And the other guy was telling him about me and what I did. And he wound up giving us shirts and pants for our youth golf program back there when we had it going. For about 3-4 years he did that. And I never knew the guy. So like Sheena says, you get on a plane or get on a bus with a golf bag, somebody gonna come up to you and say, let's go play golf. You play golf? Yep.
That's so true.
Yep, that's true. I mean, you don't have to speak their language. The club and the ball speaks the language for you.
Yep.
That's Sumner Woods. I see there's a question about Sumner Woods. That's Tiger Woods' niece, isn't it? Who's that?
Cheyenne Woods.
Oh no, who's Sumner Woods? Oh.
That's PJ Spring.
Oh, that's PJ. Oh. They asked a question about Sumner Woods. I forget the question.
I think they asked the question, will this panel discussion be posted on YouTube? And I believe the answer to that question is yes. We will definitely be posting this on YouTube. And,
talk about Lee Elder. Yeah, Lee Elder came up to one of our tournaments.
He did.
Yeah, back in the day. I have him on video. Yep.
Wow. How's that experience meeting him?
Oh, it was good. It was good meeting him. He didn't talk that much about John Shippen. And like I said to Charlie Sifford, you guys don't talk much about John Shippen. And you know what he said? Well, what do you want us to do? What do you want us to do, Thurman? Dig him up out the grave? And I said, no, just tell who he was and what he did. Because people aren't going to listen to me. I'm not a golfer. I'm a historian. So if other golfers talk about John Shippen, like Sheena says, I think we can grow this, even though we're not on the golf course. Because if it's talked about enough, the word will get out to the right people. It just has to be talked about enough.
Talked about.
Yep, you have to spread it out like Sheena Sylvia and I are doing, but we just here in Scotch Plains. But I know people in California and all over the country. Seem like these here people are calling in from all over the country.
Yeah, they are.
Asking questions.
Yeah.
So I think we're doing a good job at starting this conversation.
I agree. You know, and Gary, do you have any thoughts on how you got started in the game, or how what your hobby looks like now?
Well, my hobby look like, I mean, you know, I'm planning on getting back out there on the course too. Like I say, even a caddy, a good caddy, the golfer always sometimes asks a good caddy what golf club to use and stuff. That's what the good caddy does. They can come out there, I might need a 9, or I might need this, but that's what a good caddy does. But my thing is, I want to get back out there on the golf course and try and see what I could do too.
I'm gonna hold you to it.
Uh-oh, scared of him.
I'm gonna hold him to it.
I do love the game. I mean, we used to play as little kids all the time. And like I said, we used to walk around, they used to teach us how to play the game as a little kid.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And once you learn how to play golf, you never forget. I've had some friends of mine, I can play that game. I took them up to the golf course. They couldn't even hit the ball off the tee. Oh, that's easy. They swing it like they swing the club like it's a bat. You don't have to swing it hard. You just have to make contact, and that ball.
Just make contact with the ball.
Yep.
That's right. The ball is the ball is built to fly.
Yes.
You don't need a lot of strength. That's why you see a lot of people that's not real heavy that has a good swing.
Yeah.
But Shippen was a little guy. He wasn't a big guy. You look at him, he was like 5'5", but he was straight. And that's the key, is to get on the green in the allotted time. Because you can hit the ball 500 miles, but if you can't get on the green to put the ball in the hole, that's useless if you hit the ball in the woods. You know, you can't, now you got to take a double penalty to get out of the woods. So, you know, you got to, and that's why Tiger was so good, because his father trained him to get out of the woods. If you watch Tiger in his early years, Tiger could get out of a bad lie because he was trained to do that when he was young.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't excite him if he hits the ball in the rough, or you know, while he was young. But when he got older, he couldn't get out of it because he didn't have the wherewithal to do that when he got older. But no, you don't have to be long to play golf. You got to be straight, and you got to be able to putt, chip and putt.
Yeah.
Sheena will tell you.
Yeah, I hit about I chip about 200 balls a day, but I can't do nothing else. I chip. Yeah, so I chip a lot, I putt a lot. My driver was the first thing I've ever learned, because right, you pick up a club, all you want to do is knock it out the park. So I'm never concerned with my driver. I put that practice years ago in my bag. But chipping, I learned as an adult, it got a bit tricky. These golf courses that I once played 1,000 times got a bit trickier. So yeah, all year long, 200 balls a day, whether it's in my backyard, the driving range, or at Scotch Hills.
Wow. So do you have a designated area in the backyard, like a little chipping green, or?
No, I don't have a chipping green, but my son plays baseball, so we do have a net.
Gotcha.
Yep. And we had a fair winter. The last time I played golf in this season was December 9th at Scotch Hills, because it was nice. Yeah. If it's 50 degrees or above, I'll play. I can't. Yeah. I'm crazy at 40. 50 degrees, I'll play.
Yep. We're getting there. And Thurman, you brought up Tiger Woods briefly, but kind of going off of that, do you think the golfers of today, specifically black golfers, are doing enough to kind of grow the game, or do you feel like more can be done? Because, you know, Tiger Woods, he came out, you know, back in the day saying, you know, he wasn't black, he was Caliblasian, things of that nature. But do you feel like golfers nowadays are doing enough to kind of grow the game for blacks?
No, I don't think they're doing enough. They're not concentrating on the game. They're concentrating on basketball, baseball, football.
Exactly.
You know? That's all they're concentrating on because they don't see the big picture. You can't become a manager, or you can't build a baseball stadium. You know, you can't go caddy a baseball player. There's nothing in baseball that you can do besides be a professional baseball player. Where in golf, the golfer, he can't play golf unless he got a caddy. He can't carry his bags. He doesn't know the golf course like the caddy. The caddy goes there on a Monday and he learns the golf course if he's never been there before. So now he's gonna tell his caddy, his golfer, okay, you gotta use this club, you gotta do this, this is happening over there, the wind is blowing this way, the wind is blowing that way. They used to throw the grass up in the air, but I don't see them doing that too much no more.
I still do that.
You still do that?
I still do that every time I see y'all.
But you know, they rely on the caddy. And see, that's why you have caddy colleges, you have caddy this, and our kids don't know about caddying. Like Gina says, oh, you know, I don't want a caddy. You can make a living caddy. Tiger Woods caddy, what was it, Fluff? That was his first caddy? Now he's caddying for somebody else now. Yeah. And these guys aren't, they're young guys.
They're young.
You learn how to caddy by going to a golf course, asking the pro, could you become a caddy? And they'll teach you. That's where you learn to caddy at a golf course where a pro, where they have a club, private clubs hire people to be caddies. So now if you're a good caddy, people will request you, you know? So
for me, Lenny, I'll say in terms of Tiger Woods and what black golf look like today, it don't look like much but Tiger Woods, in my opinion. Yeah. I actually don't even follow the PGA or the LPGA. To be honest, if Stephen A ain't talking about them, I don't listen. I don't know what's going on because I'm so focused on this front line, right? The youth, what we doing in our community. We talking about a town, a county, a state, and so forth. So it's hard for me to be like, oh, so-and-so is doing this. And when we looking for the next person to be so-and-so in our town. But I don't see off the back of my, if it ain't Tiger Woods blasting in a screen, I see the APGA, the black guy who's playing golf and who's out there, but it's not too many of us. And if you want to talk about females, that's a whole nother different story. Even my age or people who is playing amateur tournaments like myself, they're not African-American and they're not females. So I was talking to, me and Kelly had a conversation about me assisting him with his youth, giving him a lesson here or there. And I told him that it's so hard to get teenage females because they're like, first of all, blacks don't play golf. And secondly, boys play golf, you know? So to answer your question, it's not many black people out here playing on a professional level. So it's just Tiger Woods.
Yeah.
Unless you coming out of the woodwork saying you about to get your PGA, you about to.
I don't know about that.
And now it looks like Tiger may not even. It looks like Tiger may not even get on the senior tour.
Yeah,
that was a bad accident. They're not telling us everything.
It seems like he broke his leg in a couple places.
Compound fracture with a shattered ankle. Pins, rods. He got to learn how to walk all over.
Well, hopefully the guy from the APGA can step his game up a little more than what he's doing and get on the PGA tour. It'll look like a Serena and Naomi, like a legacy giving a torch. It should look like that. It should look like Tiger giving his torch to the next one. It shouldn't be like just Tiger. And then we just wait and, you know?
Yep.
So fingers crossed.
Yeah, well, slow progress is still progress, right? You have some people like Carol Varner, but it's not enough. I guess kind of put a bow on this. What is something that you want people to know that we haven't touched on about Shady? And I know we talked about how you donate and whatnot, but what's something you want people to know?
For the golf club?
Yeah, for the golf club.
Oh, first and foremost, even if you don't want to become a member, we also ask everyone to just subscribe to keep updated on any of the news. Like Ms. Sylvia said earlier, this year is the 100th year of the Shady Rest Country Club. So hopefully we're still waiting for a date to have a golf event in honor of that, and also honoring the late great founder, Lamont Davis. So we're trying to do a scholarship and a tournament in his name. So that's one of our second biggest thing. The first biggest thing is starting the season. Like I always tell people on the board, they got a whole bunch of ideas, and I'm just the golfer. So I'm excited to play. I'm excited to teach and train this season. We have I personally have a whole bunch of stuff going on, and that will loop us all back into the Shady Rest Golf Club. I'm traveling out of the state. I'm traveling out of the country this year to go train the youth in specifically Antigua, Trinidad, and in California. So I'm excited about that. And I'm just excited to let people know about the Shady Rest Country Club, because even the people I spoke to who reached out to me, that's the first thing I asked them is, how did you hear about us? Just click an Instagram, or did you click the Preserve Shady Rest? Like, how did you hear about us? They're like, oh, we just found you on social media. But before I even offer the golf club assistance, I speak to them about the history. So that's what we're trying to do.
Wow, that's awesome. Sylvia?
We are about preserving the Shady Rest Clubhouse. We are about preserving the history, maintaining the exhibits that we have created, bringing in more memorabilia. We are encouraging everybody that if you have old photographs, programs, brochures, postcards, anything that ties you, your family, anybody to the Shady Rest, we'll take it. If it's something that you really don't want to part with, if you can trust me with it, I will make duplications of it and send you back your original. Some people have done. I'm real thankful for the families that have supplied us with personal photos, memorabilia, books about the Shady Rest, tennis rackets. One thing we didn't touch on was that Althea Gibson, when she was not playing tennis, she then became the first African-American female in professional golf. She played at the Shady Rest. David Dinkins met her at the Shady Rest. So, there's still a lot of history to be had, a lot of history to be told. And I am looking for anything about Althea Gibson and the Shady Rest, other than the few articles that we found in old newspapers. If anyone knows of her family, friends, anyone that would have anything related to her, I would be more than happy if they would donate it to us. We have a nice exhibit. Thurman has done due diligence with collecting information about John Shippen. I have been doing history preservation and stories about the Shady Rest. And if anyone wants to give us a call, you can go to the Shady Rest Preserve, shadyrest.org, and you can connect with us that way. Our email information is there. You can make a donation through our website. We'd be more than happy to have you. And I'm praying that when COVID lets up, I've gotten so many emails, and I want to thank you guys Kelly, Lenny, and Sheena about putting the word up about the Shady Rest. I'm getting a lot of phone calls like Thurman. I get a lot of emails. People want to see the exhibit. So until COVID gives us a break, we're closed. But as soon as we get open, I will shout it from the highest hill to let you all know that you're more than welcome to come. And between Gary, myself, and Thurman, we will take you through the exhibit.
Thank you. Gary?
Yes, and I just can't wait till it's open because I was getting calls too as well. Oh, when is they gonna open the place? I said I don't know. We have to wait till this stuff is over with. I mean, but you know, people so excited to go in there, and I'm willing. I can't just wait till it's over so I can just show them the excellent work that Sylvia and Thurman did up in.
Thank you. And Thurman?
Well, the only, the only thing I would want to be done is to get this stamp. Whatever we got to do to get this stamp approved and out there, that means it would go all over the whole country. And, you know, I just was just disappointed in the Postal Service not approving this stamp and have us wait 3 years. So we need to put pressure on them. However we can do it. You know, like I said, I just sent off another letter. Hopefully I'll get a response back and we'll see what happens. But that's what I would like to get done. I would like to see that before I leave this earth. I mean, I didn't think I would see what I see now when I started 30 years ago, you know, but I'm proud of what's happened. But, you know, if we can get that stamp, that would put us on the map as far as I'm concerned in America, because people buy stamps every day. And, you know, stamps travel. And the question is like we have on some of our old hats. I have 1896 on the back of it. And I put it back there for people to ask, what does that mean? And that's the question, is that's when John Shippen played in the US Open in 1896. And then, you know, it answers their question about who he was and what he did. And then, you know, that sparks up a conversation about, you know, where did he go? What did he do? And I mean, he made his living making clubs, giving golf lessons, and taking care of golf courses all over this Eastern Seaboard. You know, he wasn't just in New Jersey. He was in Pennsylvania. He was in New York. He was in Maryland. He was down in Spring Lake. He was at Millstone. And even people out at Shinnecock, they don't have nothing about Shippen out there, which they should. So maybe somebody will see this, and because they have to have something about what he did that day somewhere, unless they threw it away. But, you know, that's what I'm pushing for, this stamp. I would love to see that happen. If anybody's out there listening that has any connection to the post office or the postal committee who approves it, send them a letter.
Thurman, someone put in the chat about have we contacted Cory Booker? And we have.
Yes, I contacted one of his agents, one of his guys in Newark.
And,
you know,
Bonnie Watson Coleman.
Yeah. Oh, well, she knows. I had her right here in my house, in my backyard.
Yes, I remember, because we had her over the Shady Rest. Yes.
Yes. So it's not like we're just waiting around for these people to do something. We've done all the work. The work is done. We need action now. And we need to get to the people that make these decisions. You know, say yes or no.
Yeah.
That's where we're at now. We're at that point where, you know, and hopefully if something happens down the road with the PGA can do it. All it takes is a phone call.
Yeah.
That's all.
Thurman, you get your stamp and the Shady Rest gets their historic landmark status.
Yes, that would put us on the map. That would be it. you know. Then we have something to show the younger generation, because that's what they want to see. They want, well, what are you doing? They don't know, like Sheena said, they don't know. Yeah. So that's all I got to say.
Yeah, I think the momentum's kind of building, and we can capitalize on, the added, attention to Shady Rest, and we can make those things happen. And that's the goal right now. And I just want to thank you all. Thank the audience for tuning in. Thank the panelists. You guys, your insights are tremendous, and without you guys, Shady Rest wouldn't be what it is today. And we just want to thank you for that. And so,
can I say something? I want to thank the Township of Scotch Plains for rallying behind us, because for a while there, things looked pretty bleak for us. We didn't think that we could get a roof, much less get a whole building renovated. And so I thank our previous mayors, Mr. Mauro Cecchio, Mr. Kevin Glover, Mr. Al Smith. Thank our freeholders, Alexander Mirabella, and all of the township members of Scotch Plains that helped us fill a courtroom 2 and 3 times to get them to understand that this was history that they were going to let go by the wayside. And I appreciate that. And I'm forever grateful for anybody that has helped us with getting this to this point. And I just get filled up, and I'm just really thankful. I'm very, very happy to be in Scotch Plains, to be born here, raised here, and to preserve some history.
Yeah, and I also want to add something to that. I'd like to thank the county, Al Mirabello, because they printed up some cards about the history of John Shippen. You know those cards I'm talking about, Sylvia.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't ask them to do that. And Al just said, Thurman, I have something for you. And he gave me a whole pack of these cards that the county had printed up about the history of John Shippen and what he did. So, Al Mirabello and the county and the town, they've been behind us in a lot of things that we've tried to do. Yeah, that's the card right there. Yep.
The Union County Cultural and Heritage Affairs, they started a trading card collection of all the historic places and people that are in Union County. And it's a national program that started through the Parks Department, and people come and collect all these different trading cards. So, you can go on the Union County website and you can look at all these different trading cards that are available. And Scotch Plains has been blessed to have quite a few, because we have a lot of historical buildings here and people like John Shippen. We have the first freed slave, Caesar, buried here in our local churchyard. So these trading cards are really something to see, because people come, like I had mentioned before, that we participate with 4 centuries in a weekend. And it's always the second weekend in October. And the county, like Thurman said, has set up these cards, and people come and collect them.
Wow. What are some of those cards that you have in your hands right there?
Oh, well, we have Deborah Cannon Partridge Wolf. She's in Cranford. She was in Cranford, New Jersey. Highly respected educator, worked with different presidents in her lifetime to increase the level of education for not just African Americans, but all. Her parents were big on teaching the illiterates that weren't fortunate enough to go to school, that you could come to their house in Cranford, and at night they would teach people how to read and write. Langston Hughes, he was from Westfield, New Jersey. A lot of people don't know that, but that's where he's from. Miss Hazel Fields, from Plainfield, New Jersey. She was instrumental in networking. She was a corset salesperson. She cleaned houses and became a school teacher by making all her money part-time and going to school part-time. So she lived in Plainfield, New Jersey. Of course, Mr. Shippen, Zora Neale Hurston, another literary giant. She and Langston Hughes were in Westfield. And here, again, when I was saying about white benevolence, this woman took Zora and Langston into her home and gave them a place to live because she recognized the genius in them. And again, like I was mentioning about Caesar, he was a freed slave. He was the first Black man to be recorded as being a citizen in Scotch Plains, New Jersey. And he worked for the Revolutionary War. He was a Teamster. And he's now buried right here in Scotch Plains Baptist Church. So we have a lot of these cards. A lot of this history is right here in Scotch Plains. And the Shady Rest is a big part of that history, a big part of that African-American history. And like Thurman said, I appreciate that the county, I was so surprised when they called me and they told me about the card. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, well, we're making headway.
Yeah.
So that's about it.
Wow. That's amazing. And yeah, I just want to thank you guys again. You know, you guys are, like I said, your insight is, you know, second to none, because without you guys, like I said, we wouldn't, Shady Rest wouldn't be what it is, and the history would get lost. And we're trying to make sure that doesn't happen, and the next generation can build on what you guys have built. So thank you. And that's been a presentation of Blacks in Golf. You know, we hope you all learned something. I know I for sure did. And I'm going to take what I learned today and try to pass it on to as many people as I can, because that's how you grow. And thank you all, and have a good night.
Okay, thank everybody.
Bye.
I want to get to see you, Sheena. You done grew up for me. Huh? I can't hear you.
She's breaking up.
Yes.
Yeah, Sheena, you're breaking up a little.
But we'll see each other.
Yeah.
Okay, guys.
All right. Thank you all.
Okay. Okay.